Watch Dr. Drew's new show at 9 on HLN. Weeknights on HLN.
Every day, that means every day, more than 4,000 adolescents between the ages of 12 and 17 abuse legal and illegal drugs for the first time. Think about that. The first time. That doesn't mean all the users. That means they're just getting started today and every day. And these stats represent real people. Jennifer Reynolds is one of them, and she is someone's daughter. Here is her tragic story and how it began. Jennifer Reynolds was a bright young student, an all-American cheerleader, and a beloved friend. During her freshman year in high school, she met people who introduced her to drugs. Her grades plummeted, and by the age of 16, she dropped out. Over the next 13 years, Jennifer descended into the merciless grip of opiate addiction, heroin, and prescription painkillers. Her family waged an anguishing battle to save their daughter's life. They lost that fight when Jennifer died at the age of 29. A mixture of drugs was found in her body. But the end of that battle was the beginning of a new one for Jennifer's mom, Sharon. Her grief turned to resolve, and she launched a relentless campaign to prevent this from happening to other families. Jennifer's mom, Sharon, is with me now. And Sharon, I'd like you to take me back to that night. You got that knock on the door that every parent, just the nightmare that any parent would do anything to avoid.
Right.
What happened?
The sheriff came to my house about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I knew that it was something really bad. And so I asked the sheriff if this was about Jennifer, and he said yes. And I asked him if it was bad, and he said yes. And I said, is it very bad? And he said yes. And I said, is she dead? And he said yes. So that's what happened.
And then you had to go, there was further agony for you? You had to actually go identify her and all that?
I requested that. I wanted to make sure that we had the right person because it was just really hard for me to hear that. And so I asked the sheriff if I could go to the coroner's office and identify her body. So I went down the next morning.
By yourself?
My husband went with me. And they showed me her body, and that was really difficult.
That must just haunt you to this day. I mean, I get kind of a sick feeling. Was that you? You felt sick?
Oh, yeah. I fell down on my knees when I saw her. And, you know, it was really hard. She was laying on a table, and she had a white sheet up here to her neck. And then I knew that it was final, and all the fighting to save her was over.
To what lengths had you gone?
A lot. I had filed Marchman Act petitions in the state of Florida. I had went in front of judges. I had talked to police officers. I had met Governor Jeb Bush at the time. I spoke with him personally. I worked with counselors. Every time she would go in for detox, I would let them know that she's a runner. She can't endure the detox. You know, she needs to stay long enough to get through the detox and begin a treatment plan. And I just kept hitting brick walls. I mean, it was just a difficult situation for almost 13 years.
What were the brick walls?
Jennifer leaving. She would, you know, the addiction was so strong that she would leave. She would bolt.
And this is one of the frustrations of dealing with addicts is we have no. I tell people at home they understand this. In pretty much every state in the country, I guess Kentucky being perhaps an exception. You were allowed to, you were within your rights to use drugs until you die.
That's correct.
And you are within your rights to leave a treatment program when they tell you that you're going to die if you leave.
That's correct.
You can just go.
That's correct.
You can't say, I'm going to go and kill myself, but you can go and die of addiction. It's crazy, right?
Right.
And I understand you're doing something to combat this.
Yes. In Florida, I'm working to improve the Marchman Act law to make amendments and improvements to that bill so that it'll strengthen it and so that kids don't fall through the cracks. Jennifer was one of those that fell through the cracks. I filed 5 Marchman Act petitions in the state of Florida to get help for Jennifer. And 4 out of 5 times it did not produce any type of treatment whatsoever. She just fell through the cracks. So that's my goal in Florida. In Indiana, they don't have a bill at all, so we've introduced a bill, which I've drafted, and it's now Senate Bill 22.
How did she get her hands on all these pills?
She started out going to rave clubs when she was 15, almost 16, and she started experimenting with drugs, and that's when it began.
But that's the illicit drugs. Was she getting prescription drugs also?
Well, Jennifer had scoliosis, severe scoliosis.
I'm going to stop you. She could have had, some sort of horrible wound, she still should only be getting opiates for a few days with the degree of addiction that she had. So you'd say she'd go in and complain of back pain and be prescribed?
For that reason.
This is how my patients die every day. This is how they die every day. I have one dying today of this exact phenomenon. And it kills me. I'm sick of it. And it must sicken you to know that. Couldn't you call those doctors and get in the way of that? Or did you try?
I did. I did call the doctor. I did call the doctor, and I told him that he was prescribing medication and Jennifer was addicted to it. And if he didn't stop prescribing the medication, that I was going to sue him. So she went to a different doctor. There are pain management doctors all over Florida that write prescriptions like candy. And so she found a different doctor to prescribe medication.
Well, okay, that is where Sharon's daughter died. It was in Florida. In that particular state, prescription drugs kill 5 times as many people as illegal drugs. Take a look at this clip from a story reported by CNN correspondent Amber Lyon.
We decided to shoot this story in South Florida because this is the pain clinic capital of America. Pill users from not only Florida but all over the East Coast drive down here to get their meds. And just to see how bad the problem is, all you need to do is pick up a copy of the local newspaper, flip it over, and you'll find 14 pages of pain clinic ads. There are hundreds of them in Broward and Palm Beach counties. We are out in front of one of the clinics in Broward County. The outside is covered in mirrors. It doesn't even have a sign on the front with a name, and you can see there's a line of people waiting to get in. They told me I'd have to pay $350 just to see a doctor. With the volume of patients, some of these clinics are pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. Has your mom seen your arm?
Yep.
What does she say to that?
It makes her, she's heartbroken about it.
Sharon, how do you react to that story?
Well, the track marks, that's always very hard for me to see, that people can get to that place where they're shooting up.
But how about having track marks and going to see a doctor and still being prescribed an opiate? That to me is outlandish. I can't even get my head around it.
I'm so angry about it. It makes me so angry that I'm doing something to change it.
The Jennifer Act.
I am.
Tell us quickly about that.
Okay, the Jennifer Act is basically involuntary treatment for anyone, an adult or a teenager who has a drug addiction problem that refuses to go to treatment.
Will this be a federal law or
state?
You're doing it state by state?
And then I want to go federal after I get it passed in Indiana and Florida.